Hey, welcome back to the Super Stock Bros. We got some good picks today. I'm Bub,
And I'm Ace.
and we're here to give you some information on Airbnb today. You don't want to miss it. 3 reasons to invest in Airbnb today. And get ready for this, all right? Okay, let's get right into it, Ace. So, reason number one, what do we got? Leadership and management. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so in our last video, we went over, why you should buy Airbnb, what's in store for the future, price targets, and all that. Today, I want to talk to you about the most important things, which is basically a leadership team for a startup. Because without a leadership team, you might have the greatest idea in the world, but you can't execute on it. So you need leadership, you need management, you need connections. Airbnb's leadership team is incredible. So you have Brian Chesky and Joseph Gebbia and Nathan Blecharczyk. I might be butchering that name, but they were the founders. And these guys are like really down to earth. I watched a couple of TED Talks with them. I've been listening to podcasts on them, and they're really, really cool guys, down to earth. They were like the guys that wanted to start off, just an idea, make $1 billion kind of thing. But, they're taking their vision to another level. Like they want to connect with strangers. They want people to be more interconnected around the world. It's just such a great thing. And I do have some sources for you in the description to listen to those podcasts and TED links. But they're just great guys. But not only that, people saw this vision from the very beginning and hopped on board, right? Like at first, and we can go over this later, first they kind of struggled because they didn't really have the connections, but they immediately got eyes on them. And they got big investors in it, like from the very beginning, from like Sequoia and Y Combinator, and then further progressed to the billionaires. So we can get into that. But check out this leadership and management team. So you have Dave Stephenson, who is the CFO of one of Amazon's international consumer business from 2013 to 2015. So he knows his stuff. You got Aristotle Balogh. That's a CTO. He was a previously VP of engineering at Google. You got Catherine Powell, global head of hosting, worked at Disney as a president of Disney Parks in the Western region. So you got a broad region of people, basically broad spectrum there, and they're all very good. They know their stuff, and they can lead this company in the right direction.
Okay, excellent. So, you got any stories? I think you had one about like what recently happened this year. They went through a tough because of Corona, so they had to lay off a bunch of people, but then they gave them all these like perks for HR to help them find a new job and stuff. So, they sound like a great team who cares about their own folks. So, what do you got?
Yeah, exactly. So you mentioned it. Listen to a podcast that's actually available to the public on Apple Podcasts. And Brian Chesky was talking to the leader of the podcast. I don't remember his name right now, but don't worry about it. Basically, they were talking about the start of the pandemic and the issues they had to deal with. If you remember, and if you've been following them, they were actually going to IPO back earlier in the year. Of course, the pandemic hit. A bunch of problems arose because of that. They lost apparently 80% of their business, which is, for a startup to come back from that, is just unbelievable, right? And what happened was Brian Chesky, first they went through all of their resources with a fine-tooth comb. They had to, pay off all the shareholders, make them, feel, comfortable. And then they had to, unfortunately, lay off 25% of their staff. And Brian Chesky had to do this in a way where, he was heartbroken. You could tell even on the podcast, he was feeling really bad about it. So what he did was he wrote an email to everybody. He said, I'm sorry this happened, you guys. This is just unfortunate circumstances. Like, I love you all. He actually said that. And what he did was he offered them 1 year of health insurance. He offered them a decent severance package. And then he actually assigned part of the recruiting team to find them new jobs. So like this is like compassion on another level from a CEO. You usually don't ever see that. And on top of that, they initiated a program basically to help frontline workers. So it was, I forget the name of it, but basically hosts could provide their homes to frontline workers and disenfranchised people, like people that lost their jobs and ended up on the streets. And basically these hosts would help out the community essentially. So this is like all of these things is just like showing such great compassion, great leadership in a time of trouble. So I mean, right there, that shows you how great a company can be.
All right, let's go to reason number 2, the investors. What do we know about them?
So the investors, oh boy. So from the very beginning, when the Airbnb was struggling, they ran into the CEO of Y Combinator. So I'm not going to explain what Y Combinator is, but this is very well known in the startup world in the Silicon Valley. They're just like the guys that basically start up all of these companies, right? You give them a head start, you mentor them, and then you get them to present to big investors. That's exactly what happened. So Airbnb presented to Sequoia, and Sequoia invested. Sequoia is one of the biggest investment firms in the world. Basically, any big startup name that you can think of, they were one of the first investors. So you have Sequoia, and then you have people like Jeff Bezos, Peter Thiel, Rafe Hoffman, who was the LinkedIn co-founder, Ashton Kutcher, who is not just an actor, but also an incredible investor and philanthropist. You have Mark Andreessen and Ben Horowitz. These are the guys that made Netscape. So like you have an incredible vast range of investors and connections. And you also have Google in their alphabet. So you got everybody. These are connections.
Excellent. Yeah. So they got like the top people investing in them. That means those guys know something about this company and they know they're going to make money someday.
That's right. That's right. You need connections to make money, man.
Okay. So reason number 3, the comeback story and the grand vision for the future. What's that all about?
So I touched on this a little bit already, but so basically they went from the brink of bankruptcy back in 2009, and then they ran into the CEO of Y Combinator, who basically linked them up with Sequoia after they made an impassionate presentation. Sequoia liked them, invested $600K, 2009. So then in 2012, they sold more nights. Like, there were a few years in between here. They were building up slowly. They sold more nights in that year than Hilton did. 2012. This is a huge comeback story already. And now they're actually bigger than Hilton altogether. Their market cap is bigger than Hilton. So, and Hilton is on the S&P 500. So you can see where this is going to go very, very soon.
More nights. So they're counting by like the number of nights people stay. Is that like the term now in the hospitality area? It's like they stayed like 10 nights. Take that.
Exactly. You can do nights or rooms per nights. So it would be like, we've had this many guests, and it would just be like, or we've had this many guests that stayed this many nights. So huge numbers. Like that's incredible for a company. 3 years, and you're already beating out a company that's been around for over 50 years.
Right.
So that's massive.
What's the grand vision then?
Aha. So this is great. Already you can see that they're probably going to be in the S&P 500 in a few years. Like, mark my words, that's probably going to happen. But you can also see that their executive team has their eyes on China. So they have, first of all, community. Brian Chesky is focusing on making a great community that includes the services that they're going to deploy and get more people engaged with, which, by the way, I mean, they can do whatever they want. They could do medical services. They could do grocery services. They could do anything, really, if they really put their mind to it. So that's one thing. The second thing is they actually have one of the co-founders as chairman of Airbnb China. This is on their S1. So they're already looking at China pretty deeply. It's going to be interesting to see what comes out of that. And further to that, I already mentioned it, but they could go into many different sectors depending on what they turn homes into. So you can do temporary stays or short-term stays, for example, as a replacement for a hospital, because nobody really wants to go to a hospital anymore. How about an Airbnb with medical services packages, for example?
So they want to get big enough that they start replacing these large institutional buildings that have a large amount of people. Maybe some people may want to pay for their own private health destination to get medical care. I don't know if that's legal or not, but eventually down the road, what you see is people, I think because I worked in, the medical area briefly, but hospitals and these long-term care homes, that's something of the past, it looks like. So what we're seeing here is people want like private care. They want people to come to their home, or if there's an Airbnb spot that you can like rent to go to. That sounds like something interesting, but that's not the main focus. This is kind of their like long-term vision. Is this something you found in their things, or is this like a speculation you have?
Yeah, so I'll have all the sources in the description, but a lot of this came out of the S1. You can see what positions that
And
the
the S1 is,
founders and
sorry, S1 is what again?
the S1 is the posting to the SEC, the filing for the IPO. So it has all of their profits, the revenues, that it has the names of the execs and the investors. And essentially it really shows where the company is going in the near term, at least, but I'm sure they have really, really grand visions.
Nice.
Yeah. Sounds nice. It sounds nice indeed. So if you didn't get on our Tesla play, it's already up 10%. And, if you didn't, you're waiting for something to drop. Well,
Congratulations, you played yourself.
So you don't want to miss on the Airbnb. I think you got to scale in. You got to get in. You don't want to miss this ride. I think this could 10x. So you want to just scale in, right? And that's I'll leave it at that. So Stock Bros, please subscribe, like this video, share with your friends, and catch us. Hit the little bell icon. You'll get a notification for our next video. You don't want to miss these plays and our analysis, because we'll have a couple more of these Airbnbs coming out soon. Peace out.
Peace out, Stock Bros.